きげんよう。あ、じゃーん、見て見てご主人様、バニー姿のアスナだよ。
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
What's cracking, y'all? cnuyyy here. Last time on my 40-ish hour review of cnuyyy Archive, I implied that I was going to do a 100 or even a 1000 hour review of Blue Archive. And, well, the time has come.
Execute.
But before I begin, I watched my previous video to see if there were any things I got wrong when it comes to the facts of the video. And, well, let's begin the video with some corrections. Special students act more as support than troopers, really only used for attacks that deal a lot of damage or big time healing. I suppose I said this because I was so inexperienced with Blue Archive at the time and thought that these roles were by far the most useful. But there are various students who perform other tasks outside of high damage output or healing. For example, normal Senna can be summoned into the battlefield as tactical support. And with that, she can perform a bit of everything, or at least that's how she's balanced. She has a healing aura, she can tank damage, she can attack enemies in the battlefield, and she can be destroyed or disappear when her orange bar runs out. Mari can give the same shield protection that Yuka gives to herself, as well as cure a status ailment. Himari increases the attack of one of your students on the battlefield, and Utaha summons a turret that attacks and can distract blokes if it's placed near them. So no, the roles of special students are not limited to super attacks or super heals like how I implied it. First of all, you gain experience points from completing missions in the campaign.
Maybe.
None of what I said there was factually wrong, but objectively speaking, that was not the best way to say it when it comes to the grind in Blue Archive. You obtain experience points anytime you can spend your AP in the game, not just missions, but also commissions, scrimmages, and events. Joint Firing Drill is similar to the Base Defense Commission. The Joint Firing Drill I'm showing you is similar to the Base Defense Commission, but there are 3 more Joint Firing Drills that are different from said commission. There's Breakthrough Drill, where enemies are super tanky and in order to, break through their defenses, you need to heal the dummy doll that's on the sidelines. There's Escort Drill, where you need to buff and protect the giant mech that's accompanying you to win. And then there's Shooting Drill, which is similar to the Item Retrieval Commission. Final Restriction Release. What a clunky ass name. It's the same as Total Assault, but bigger. You cannot re-enter a boss fight in Final Restriction Release. If you fail to beat the boss in FR, then you fail the stage and you need to try again from the beginning. So that's the stuff that I either got wrong or said poorly. Now let's talk about the stuff I did not talk about on the previous video. I'm still not all that deep into the social parts of Blue Archive, but what I can talk about nowadays is that assistants are useful, not just for clearing a stage, but you also use them as another way to grind for credits. Early on you might feel like you don't need them because the leveling up early on is so cheap, but as you get into a high 60s level account, you will see those millions of credits turn into a couple 100,000 credits. And you know what's also scarce during your journey through a 70s level account? Activity reports. You can purchase them with money for sure, but holy cannoli, I just keep running out of them because the leveling up kept asking for higher and higher amount of these things and credits as well. Well, at least I found the value of hoarding as much of the gems as I can, thanks to not being able to clear the missions with 3 stars on a lower level account. Speaking of missions, here's another thing I didn't talk about on the previous video: simple strategy. Here's how it works. Do you want to skip the hexagonal shit and clear a stage in one skirmish? Great! That's what simple strategy is for. Sure, you won't be able to grab those gifts of gems that the game leaves on the map, but I really don't mind. That spiral I can grab later on when I'm able to probably bulldoze through the stage. Like how I do it on the Beach Shack franchise plan event, where I play this weird conquest mode where I can spend AP to take control of these tiles for EXP. Another thing I should have talked about in the previous video is whether the game plays better in mobile or computer, or in my case, a laptop. Well, it's better to play it on the phone because if you're playing this game on PC, you gotta drag an entire mouse if you want to select an EX skill. And even if you're using the keyboard shortcuts the game gives you, you still need to drag an entire mouse if you want to select a target. And it's generally not a good idea to simply wing it when it comes to using your EX skills, and I'll show you why later. But for the phone version of Blue Archive, it just feels quicker to simply tap the screen to select the EX skill and apply it to a target, assuming that your phone isn't too big. Since I don't have a gaming phone though, I'm stuck with choosing my own poison. Better performance and graphics but worse controls, or good controls but no 144 FPS 1920 by 1080 resolution, or hell, no 60 FPS and 4K resolution. Okay, anything else I haven't talked about? Not to spoil the story mode too much, but technically you need a high level account if you wanna actually reach the credits. I suggest you use assistants for the very last boss fight. Now time to get subjective again. Let's talk about how Blue Archive worked with me as a game, and in order to demonstrate this, I'm gonna show you live gameplay of me explaining my thought process when I'm trying to achieve a 3-star in a simple strategy mission, as well as a base defense and item retrieval commission. Hello guys, live gameplay Toisoku here, and with this recording I'm going to show you my thought process when it comes to completing a mission, a base defense commission, and an item retrieval commission, because they all require 3 slightly different strategies. So let's start off with a mission. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is to check the enemy synergy, and as you can see, everyone here is heavy. If you're going in a concentrated command, it helps to have the squads be specialized towards a single type of armor. So I decided to make this composition my main piercing type. Tsurugi can be on the front, taking damage and healing herself if she lands the final hit on an enemy. Nonomi, Momoi, and Midori can be stationed in the back so that they deal with all the mooks. Nonomi in particular is super useful for the base defense commission. These two not so much, but when it comes to a normal stage, they will do the job just fine. And Midori can even contribute with some extra healing because of one of her sub skills. Chinatsu is there for the sake of emergency healing, and Kana is there so that I can deal extra damage to the final boss. She's not there to deal with mooks, since everyone here on the striker team, they are all dealers, so their main job is to deal damage. So I don't need a special student that contributes a lot of damage to the mook killing part of the stage. Although now that I think about it, wait a second, Ayane is more useful in this stage because the stage itself, it's quite narrow, and all of your students will be taking damage, so it's better to simply have the ability to heal everyone than to just have the ability to heal just one. And also, this starting skill screen is pretty useful for when you want to make sure that you have your healer on standby, because in the worst of cases, if you don't have your healer if you don't have your main healer selected as a starting skill, then in the worst case scenario, you will see the EX skills of everyone else pop off first before the healer, which could potentially cost you a reset. So anyways, let's mobilize. Correction is necessary. Since I need to clear the stage as fast as possible, it is worth it to use your low-cost EX skills for targeting mooks as early as possible. I can almost get Tsurugi, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be fine. You see, she can heal herself. Really nice. Nonomi is there for high damage, so we're gonna use her in a while. And with that simple change, you can make sure that you keep everyone alive, and you're gonna achieve a 3-star. There we go. Nice. Now, onto the base defense commission. So, for this, I'm going to necessitate a formation that's specifically built so that it has like 2 layers. A tanking layer on the front that can be used to draw enemies away, and a second layer which is used for finishing them off. So one nice thing about Kotori is she's fat. Her EX skill can be used to push enemies away, and Nonomi can provide the massive amount of damage required to destroy a lot of mooks at once. Meanwhile, Tsurugi and Haruka are going to be in the front lines tanking damage. Shiroko's swimsuit is there so that she can provide she can speed up the rate at which I can use EX skills, and Chinatsu is there for emergency healing. Although, given that this stage is quite narrow, you can also justify swapping her for Ayane. The thing is, it's not 100% guaranteed that Tsurugi and Haruka are going to be on the same spot, so yeah. Stage can play a bit wacky depending on the behavior of the AI. Plus, I like Haruka better than Yuka in the stage because Haruka is better at dealing damage. Normally you can't reposition your students, but with certain students you can, sorta. And with Haruka in particular, this is particularly useful because she has so much HP in defense, or at least my version of Haruka. Also, this is a very valuable position, you know, being able to actually see the entrance of the mooks, because you can actually start damaging them as early as possible. And still wasn't fast enough in order to complete that in this run. Just let that recovery boost bar build up, build up, build up. Go to the front lines, Haruka! I almost didn't make it, but that was a victory in my book. Okay, time to do the item retrieval commission. This took me a couple of attempts before I actually got the 3-star, and I'll tell you why. You see this girl? She's a dealer. And in my previous attempts, instead of having Haruna in my formation, I had a Bunny Asuna, who I used because her EX skill can reduce the armor of enemies, but at the end of the day, that only works to bring the enemy down to the level where Bunny Asuna becomes comparable to someone like Haruna, and probably still not as high, which showcases that better something that's better than reducing the armor of the enemy is to simply add more damage. So I picked Haruna, who at the same level as Asuna has a quite a bit higher damage value. Attack 4,373, and for Asuna it's 2,249. So let's discuss the plan, boys. We're gonna do the frame perfect Shiroko summon. Then we're gonna use Watame to increase the attack of everyone here. And then we're gonna use Cheese because her EX skill is the least useful right now. And then we basically repeat until we win. We shall use the other EX skills once the HP of this bloke increases to the point where we need it desperately. Although be sure that you actually put Watame in the correct spot. Got him. I was saving Aris. I don't know why. At the end of the day, I didn't even use her. Shut up, you hag. Blue Archive felt like a game that gave me a lot of options of customization thanks to the large roster of students at my disposal. And that amount of students is only going to increase as I keep playing the game. Blue Archive targets my love of leveling up in-game and having as many variables as possible to increase replayability, all without being a greedy cash grab type of game. In fact, the game is quite generous in my experience. Blue Archive really likes to throw gems at you just by completing the numerous challenges that the campaign mode likes to throw at you, and it will give you even more by completing story mode. The AP mechanic does become more of a necessary evil than an outright negative thanks to the cafe giving you a huge amount of AP every time you let it operate overnight, and commissions eventually become a very useful way to grind activity reports. Blue Archive is good as long as you recognize that it's at its best when you can overcome obstacles thanks to strategy, and you recognize how to grind your way into having powerful students. And after well over 100 hours into the game, I can confidently give it an 80 out of 100. Much like with the previous video, there's no analysis of lore or plot. Those necessitate their own videos thanks to the amount of text that makes up each episode in story mode, and the side stories, and blah. And as far as Momo Talk is concerned, that also needs its own video, not just because the concept of parasocial relationships with fictional characters, the framing, and fixing the issues can be expanded to become their own video, but since I published my original video of Blue Archive, I found a video on YouTube that tries to make the case for the importance of Momo Talk, which a response to it can also be inserted in a video about Momo Talk. Only time will tell, and besides, there's other things I want to do on this channel, like finishing some games I haven't on my streaming adventures, and something Dark Souls remastered. So yeah, bye bye everyone, and take care.
試練が怖いとき、セミナーの初期、トリニティ総合学園シス
Steady. I used to pray for times like this.